So the title of my talk is The Final Frontier. To boldly go where no man, woman, binary, or child has ever gone before. So the opening theme of the original Star Trek, space, the final frontier. I'd venture to say the mind, the space between my ears, the final frontier. So as religious scientists, this is where we get to put the fun in fundamental, the fundamental truth of our minds are so incredibly powerful. In moments that we are experiencing right now, it's not my job, nor any minister or any practitioner or anyone in this congregation to tell how someone should feel or how someone should think about anything that's going on. But we are here to help remind you to not tell you what to think, but help teach you and understand how to think. Our minds are incredibly powerful. Next slide. So at the beginning of the video, Spock's mother asks Spock, so does the need of the many outweigh the needs of the few? And he says, well, that is an axiom. So I had to look up, like, well, what exactly is an axiom? And of course, when I Google it, what is an axiom for dummies? Let's really bring it down to simple, because axiom can mean many different things, whether it's mathematics or whatnot. But in essence, it's a statement or a proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, and self-evidently true. It's a starting point for further reasoning or logic. So an axiom from Spock was the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Whereas Kirk came from the perspective of the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. I love to think of like Spock representing pure logic. To me, that's the subconscious mind. That is the law that just is unbiased and it just responds. It just says yes. Where Kirk represents more of the conscious mind, a little more of the emotional base. This is what I want out of life. This is what I want to experience. I'm going to feed this information, this directive, to Spock in order for him to execute it. Both axioms are correct for them. You know, next slide, please. Dr. James talks about AEPs. So an axiom, an already established premise. So I've come to learn as part of my spiritual practice, what are those axioms? What are those AEPs from which I live my life? You know, one of them is life unfolds perfectly, no matter what. In the heels of the last several days, that's an axiom. That is an AEP that I instantly found myself falling back into and questioning. Everything, we're always a choice. I think the AEPs that I had 2-3 years ago could be very different from what they are right now. So it's keeping in real time. What are those axioms? What are those AEPs that are real and true to me right here and right now? Another one, I am God. For a lot of people right now, my rights are taken away. That can be a truth. Right now, we are turning back the clock 50 years. There are a lot of people, that is the AEP that they're living an experience. My perspective is not even Cher could turn back time. That life is always evolving and expanding in a forward progression. This planet Earth is always moving in the same direction. It's moving forward and expansive. It doesn't feel like it on the relative terms. It feels like there's been a major setback. And so I had to really lean into, do I really believe life is unfolding perfectly no matter what? Even right now. I was really grateful to be able to say, yes, it is. for me, I may not be able to see the complexity of everything, but I know from my own personal experience that life, everything has one point of action has led to the next and led to the next and led to the next and led to the next to get me to where I am right now. And it's only by looking back that I'm able to connect the dots. So for me, life is still unfolding perfectly. Next slide, please. Pain is a thing of the mind. Mind can be controlled. Ernest Holmes said, trained thought is more powerful than untrained thought. These are the times for us to do our mental work, to really control and direct where I want to put my attention. As Reverend Kirby was saying, where we put our attention grows. Next slide, please. Fun is a thing of the mind, and the mind can be controlled. Joy is a thing of the mind, and the mind can be controlled. Prosperity, freedom, all of vitality, abundance is a thing of the mind, and the mind can be controlled. These are the opportunities and the times for us to know that we can guide and direct. Ernest Holmes said, there's a power for good in the universe, and you can use it because you are it. We can control how we use our minds and where we put our attention. Next slide, please. Thor, next slide. So Ernest Holmes wrote, since spirit is present in its entirety at all times, and in all places it follows, that all of spirit is everywhere, we center our attention. Since spirit is both receptivity and creative responsiveness, it follows that wherever we center our attention, its image must concentrate substance into form of such attention. This is fundamental to our concept of mental and spiritual treatment. For it is not by the external power nor through the objective might that our work is to be done, but through spirit and the law. Ernest Holmes wrote that. That's exactly what quantum science are saying right now. Where we put our attention grows. Next slide, please. And here's a long one. You don't need to read it, so I invite you to just settle in and listen to the words. Let them bathe over you. These are words that Ernest Holmes spoke. 4th of July, so sort of next week, but 1937, here in Los Angeles at the Wiltern Theater. True freedom, true liberty, has something cosmic behind it. If the time has come that modern science has proved that we cannot move a piece of paper without changing the balance of the entire physical universe, if we have come to a place where we know that the stuff which our physical bodies are made of is the same stuff which the planets are made, if we have come to a place where such profound unity is maintained, that physicists believe that there is no such thing as disunity in the physical world, then we can easily easily see what the great spiritual leaders of the ages meant when they told us that the greater unity in which we all live and move and have our being, and that the idea of freedom itself is tied up with the concept of the unity of good, the celebration of good in the Hindu tradition, the celebration of color. If our nature is one, if God is one, and we know that God must be one, for the universe cannot be divided against itself, then we are all tied into an indivisible unity. We shall have to get back to this unity to find the meaning of freedom. Nothing in any part of this cosmic whole could be considered freedom that would destroy the liberty of some other part of it. That would be self-destruction, would it not? As Jesus pointed out 2,000 years ago, that would be a kingdom divided against itself. The kingdom of God is one kingdom. So we know that true liberty must spring from true unity. Ernest Holmes, July 4th, 1937. We stand at a time in this country that feels very divided. On the relative plane, it is. On the spiritual truth, it is all one thing. I mentioned before, sort of joked, but the law of polarity. We're so used to duality. It's good or it's bad. The conservatives or the liberals. The people that are very happy about the choices and the rulings that were made a couple days ago, and the ones who are very upset, very hurt, scared, and angry. To each of these dualities, or perceived dualities, there is an axiom that they believe it to be true. But when we can go back to the place of unity, as Ernest Holmes was talking about, of polarity, it's all one thing. From the center of it all, from the space of oneness, it cannot be divided. And from that, I thank you for your time. I say live long and prosper, and namaste.